Okay, before we get too far into this, because we have a new tribe member that showed up today, and Michaela began to introduce her, only for us to realize that we probably should have recorded this so the rest of us would understand who it was that she brought to the party today. So, with that, Michaela, I'm going to turn it back over to you and repeat what you said again for everybody else that's going to listen today.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I felt like bringing into our circle one precious person today because in past few weeks we were together in a very transformative journey in northern Scotland. And she's my friend. She's very talented channeler. She brings forth messages from spiritual world. And recently she got a deeper connection with thought. So I kind of felt like something interesting might come up, and I really resonate with what she brings. Maybe she can introduce herself as well. Her name is Catherine. Welcome.
Thank you, Michaela. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's really lovely to meet you, everybody, and I'm really happy that I can be here this evening for you this morning. And it's really honor to meet you, everybody. And as Michaela said, we know each other for a longer time, but we had now quite a beautiful trip in Scotland, and it was for us really transformative in every way, in every possible way, I would say so. And yeah, after a long time, after 7 long years, again, my reconnection with thought happening. And it's a blessing for me. It's a blessing because it's like feeling returning home again to family, like it's time. So thank you for that.
None of that is coincidental. Where are you on the planet? Are you in Slovakia as well?
I'm in Czech Republic, but I'm originally from Slovakia, and I was living in UK for quite a long time.
So when Michaela said that you're a channeler, when
Yeah.
did you come into contact with that ability? How long ago was it?
Wow, it's kind of since I was a little child. So basically, it was evolving since I was a little kid. To be honest, when I was a kid, for me, it was absolutely normal to be outside and speak with something invisible for other people. And it somehow evolved. There was upside and downs because there was no leading for me. It was everything just trusting what is inside and going with the flow. So there was ups and downs, but properly it opened like 7 years ago, and there was quite a journey for me. That was my 7 years waiting period and probation period, I would say so, where I was experiencing different kind of works, but everything was connected with channeling and Akashic readings and soul readings. And in this journey in Scotland, it's somehow everything connected. And what was quite natural for me when I was kid, get together alongside with I learned through this my journey in life, and yeah, somehow it got in the right point and opened it to something new. So yeah, that's it.
So do you want to talk about this connection with Toth?
Yes, I can talk about it. It's a little bit personal because it was the beginning, but it was like getting in touch with my part, which was forgotten for a really long time. And when we met again, it was like coming home, coming into the source. And he just called me like right hand of the thought, but what I could feel, it's more beings who are the right hand. And every being is really unique and has a special mission on the planet, I would say so, in these words. And I can just feel it or see it through the colors because it's emitting, every being is emitting different color. So, and we were just talking about the things, about my journey in the life, how it was important to be out of connection with the tribe for my understanding how the emotions, mental plane, spiritual plane, and the physical is connected, and how cannot be not separated, but needs to be connected in every level and in complete, absolute balance, and not be in polarity, but be in unity. So, yeah. Then we were talking about Monshasta, about the chambers of Amenti. Then we were talking a lot about different kind of tablets. As it has emerald, so there is a different color of the tablets, and basically they are different, using a different kind of energy, emitting the energy into the person and opening what is needs to be open. Yeah, and this morning it was about the Amenti. Yeah. We were just going inside, and it was just brief, but it was deep, and it was like coming home. Yeah. That I would say is that's it.
How long was it this, I don't want to call it a new connection with Torque, because it's never that. It's always,
No.
when we come back into realization that we've had that all along, and they just reconnect when they're supposed to. How long ago was that since this kind of re-entered your consciousness?
Well, we thought it's after the 7 years in Propel Way, but with divine source or the primordial source, depends how people are calling it. It was always there, but it was more about me to renew my trust and getting more and more in my center, in the source of the power there. And then as was there more trust and more opening, the stronger the emission and the transmissions were. Yeah, so now it's evolving. Now it's in a place that everything is changing completely. So even my type of the work is changing, and I'm really excited what will be coming up. Cannot see here.
It's a process, isn't it?
It is. It is. But it's a beautiful process. When you are in the truth, and when you are not afraid to go in the deepest of the deepest inside, then the new world is completely opening for you. Yeah.
Well, today's theme in my mind, after some dialogue with our buddy Dave, who I'm kind of surprised didn't show up today because I thought he might. He had made some remarks in response to some of the observations that Paula and Irene both had last week. And he zeroed in on the idea of consciousness. I mean, we kind of tiptoed around the description of it. Some of us call it awareness, so that we don't feel as though we're overusing the word consciousness and it loses its value. It's time to just call it what it is. It is what it is. And Dave will be talking more about, we touched on this before, and when he said it first, it triggered me. The relationship between time, light, gravity, and sound. And that when you understand all of those and how they work, when you understand what binds them together, you can influence that. So here is where you understand the mechanics of how we adjust our reality by throwing our consciousness into that. So Dave and I were talking about it late yesterday afternoon, and consciousness kept coming up. And he said he had a profound interaction with Kim Jim night before last. And it's been a while since he's had communication with him, but this was certainly meant to happen. And that piece in between, in discussions we'd had before, it seemed like the ether, that thing that binds, the dimensions together, is what also bound those particles together. Because that's what time, light, gravity, and sound, they're particles. So a little bit at a time, we're being spoon-fed to understand what this is, because it's so beyond what we can understand. um, that, well, we should just table that because Dave's working on a presentation. The next time he sits down with us, we're going to go into a deeper dive on those four particles and how they actually work, because it's time for us to understand that now. Really, when we want to understand how we make an impact and how we change things because of, thoughts become things and that whole process. Now that we understand, God, when he said time like gravity and sound to me a long time ago, it resonated like I should know this. And the more we talk about, the more is revealed. And what we wanted to understand next is if it's been suggested to us that when we understand how those particles are bound together, that we can have an influence on them. The door is kind of creaking open a little bit more, so that we get a comprehension of what each one of those pieces are. And then we understand how we can bind it together. Now we can more intentionally change things that we want to change with our own intent. So I'm going to sit back for a little bit, and it looks like some of you are interested in making comments, Michaela. So I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yes, actually, these past few days after we came back from our journey, I was exploring a bit the element of time. So I also wanted to comment on what you were discussing on the last podcast, because I want to share this concept about time that came to me after years again in a new form, that there are two kinds of time named after the characters of Greek mythology that were kind of personifying them. It is Chronos and Kairos. Maybe you heard about them. The Chronos is said to be the linear time that we can measure with hours, days, calendar, and so on. And the Kairos is our inner time, like when we go with the flow and suddenly we feel that the time has come. It has nothing to do with clock, with hours and days. It is just the right time that we can feel from the inside. So I started to play with this concept again, because especially at this time, when the linear time seems no longer to be fully reliable. Yeah. And I was thinking also about what you were discussing in the last podcast, the linear estimation of the events that are to come. It might not work this way anymore, that. Maybe really the best way is to connect into our inner Kairos and feel when the things are going to come, when is the right time to do the right thing. And also I feel like the Kairos is the place from where the magic with time can be done. So I'm really interested in what you think about this. And yeah, really, even when you are in some places, when you experience time dilations, and now especially when the time is flowing, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, it is not reliable anymore. So only when we connect to that Kairos, we have the better certainty that we are on the right track, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I was just interested. What do you think?
I resonate with that. It's hard to figure out how do you fit that into a conversation, because you're talking about things that are really esoteric to even us, and how do you put that in a perspective that others can understand? We're not having this conversation by accident. There's no coincidence that this is what's coming along, because every time we find another fundamental piece of information, one of us seems to deep dive into it to just open up the dialogue for the rest of us to kind of catch up and bring along. And it's not like when Michaela brings this up, we're waiting with bated breath for her to tell us what it is. She triggers something inside of us that, is awakening our own truth. And look, it's either going to resonate with it or it's not. But I've been in so many of these instances now. Today is the 70th podcast we've done since we've started these. And I was blown away by that number because it didn't seem like that at all. But each time that we do, the whole tribe was, whoever showed up today was in tune to talk about this today. It wasn't that, we're all kind of getting here and we'll figure out what it was. And there was even, I don't want to say discourse. We all agreed on the topic and we all had a piece of the puzzle to talk about. So, this is why the tribe shows up. And this is why it's perfect that none of us are on the same journey and that we all have different gifts. Because when we add those little pieces of the puzzle, it just makes the picture more complete. And none of us, we're going to assemble all that on our own. No, our journeys were limited in this incarnation, and we wait for other tribe members to show up. I am content as anything with the fact that this group has not grown to tens or hundreds of thousands yet. I suspect that soon it will. That all this information that we put out there, others are going to finally find it when their own triggering happens, and then we'll watch the flood. In the meantime, this is kind of like graduate school for the rest of us. Oh, we've got our fundamental information of, how we've come to our conclusions. And now we're just refining that information so we understand more deep dive of exactly what it is that's taking place here. Because we have not experienced this. And we're talking about things from a level of consciousness that in the past, humans have had. We've had access to this information and we just kind of let it go. It's not what the collective gets, and you can see that played out every day. But I'm encouraged every time somebody else shows up, somebody new that was triggered. And I had a few other people this week, you can tell something, in the past week triggered them too. And, however they found this group, here they are. And now they've got questions. Every time we add a little bit more to our own understanding of it, it just helps us to help them. And again, part of us as teachers, yes, because there's a part of this that is true for the entire collective. But it's our own experiences that brought it to the surface for us so that we could understand it. I'm trying to put into perspective what happened to me last night. And it's been a while since I have astro traveled, bilocated. But last night there was an instance I'm still trying to sort out. So, I need to say it because I just need to get out of my system. There was an instance last night, I like to sit outside in the backyard when the weather's nice to do these. And last night when I went to go to bed, I drifted off and it seemed like, here I was in the backyard again. Sunshiny, the light was out. And then there was a moment where it was like all the light went out. I found myself in pitch dark and I was aware of it. The next thing I realized is that my awareness came back in and I woke up out of my sleep to realize that whatever that was, and I still need to find out what that was. Maybe I just got into a deep enough meditative state that I found, I don't want to call it a black hole or something, but something just all the light left from whatever was around me. And we'll just see how it pans out. It always takes me about 3 days to get a fundamental piece of information, but I just need to get that out I don't know what it was yet, but something profound happened. And things like that, they just don't come and go. And I notice them now. I pay more attention to crazy phenomenon when I hear that. So maybe if somebody else has a perspective on it, I'd be interested in hearing it.
Well,
Kick it back. Go ahead.
well, I don't have an answer or a perspective, but I'll tell you what, something I think similar, but not exactly, happened last Sunday. So Sundays, I get together with a group of folks. A couple of them are tribe members and a couple aren't, but familiar with you. And we're all, with the whole Middle Earth thing. And we were talking on a Zoom and just blah, blah, blah. And two of the people were talking, and then I was listening. And I was looking at the Zoom, and you know what happened? Everything except the focus on my phone of the Zoom call, the people on the call, the room went a hazy black and purple. And then all I saw was the phone. But the whole room went hazy black and purple. And I said to myself, ooh, because, I don't know if you listen to Neville Goddard material, if you're familiar with Neville Goddard, but he says visualization, he's taken himself to other places visually. And I said, ooh, I'm wondering if I'm doing a Neville Goddard right now. And I said, I wonder if I can go to Talos. And I said, let me focus on it. And I could not make it happen. But I can tell you the whole room disappeared, except for the focus on the phone with the Zoom call. And that was even illuminated a brighter light color, but it almost looked animated, it looked a little bit animated and illuminated, but the whole room was gone. And I had to just sit and focus. And then after the room came back, I said, you're not going to believe what just happened. And they said, we thought you were acting a little bit strange on the call. So something not exactly, but similar happened last Sunday.
There's physical evidence of that happens. And what you were describing reminded me of an instance that Michaela had with Robin while they were in Shasta. And there were a couple instances where they stopped, and I don't know how they set their camera up to take pictures of them. But you could tell when they took pictures, it was almost like a cinematic picture. When you shoot video and whatever body's in the foreground, that's a perfect focus, and everything else is kind of, shadowed and not in focus. They took pictures sitting on a rock, not a movie. So there shouldn't have been any cinematic anything to it. They took the picture and you can see the two of them sitting on top of this rock and everything else around is out of focus.
Wow.
So we're triggered. Somehow we're touching space that I call it etheric, that kind of area that we're aware of it, but we can't put words to it yet. That's what it feels like, that we have finally come into contact with that. I think it was Michaela, somebody mentioned time dilation a little bit ago. When I get the chance to record those things, when I've seen pictures of that type of phenomenon, here's the proof that we bring to the tribe. And I still cannot get out of my head what happened on Mother's Day when I hiked to Fairy Falls. I had intended to, I bought a new gimbal for my phone and I was going to practice with it. And so I thought, when I left the car where you park it to take this hike, I was going to record it. For those people that have been here before, I'm going to show you what the water levels look like today, because if you've been to Fairy Falls, it's beautiful. But I was there while the snowpack was melting and the water flows were amazing. Oh my God, if you've been there before, the difference between what I've seen in the past and what I saw that day was drastic. The water was amazing. So I thought, from one perspective, if you've ever been here, here's what it looks like today. And for those of you that have never been here, here's how you get to the falls. So I began this hike. And if you've been there, you know, the hike up is nothing but it's elevation gain. It's all uphill until you get to the falls. And so, you know, I knew I was going to stop frequently. And so I figured, rather than record this and have one long video to edit when we're all done, that I would stop. And each time I stop, I would stop. And then I would begin again. So I would have a series of files when I was all done. As I left the car and got over toward the road, I could sense when I got to the road that there was an energetic change. But, you know, been here before, sensed that in the past. So it wasn't really anything foreign to me. What I was going to find out later was that I was going to capture a phenomenon in video. When I got finished, and a couple days later, it occurred to me, well, let's go back and see what we've got, and let's see if I can stitch all these things together and see what it looks like. And so when you see, you know, your files in the folders that they are, you can see the timestamp on each one of them. It tells you how long this sequence is. So if you added up all those sequences, and there were 19 files, this was going to be a little over 38 minutes and change. I don't remember how many seconds exactly, but it all certainly made sense to me, because it's about a 30-minute hike to get there. When I stitched all the information together, it was almost 2 hours long, an hour and 58 minutes and change. And when we started to watch it, that's when I went back to look at each one of the individual files. As I've been documenting the things that I've experienced and taken pictures, it was this year that when I'd taken videos while I was out, it was much more satisfying to me after the fact. Pictures are one thing and they're wonderful, but when I took video, it was more meaningful to me in the past. So that was my intent behind all of it. So I had been using iMovie, which was easy to use. It's part of my iPad, and you pull the files in, you stitch them together, and you can edit them to some degree. And so when I did that in iMovie, I tried to pull all 19 files in to stitch them together, and only the last 4 would show up. It didn't make any sense. Well, this is about the same time that I had started to learn some different video techniques. We were working on some other projects, and there was another tool that had come along. It hadn't been available for too long. It's called Final Cut Pro. And for people that use Macs and they do a lot of video editing, this is a tool that they use. So it had just become available. It was, $5 a month to use. So I thought I would try it. And so I could, in fact, pull all 19 files into that program, stitch them all out. And that's how I learned that this was going to be a lot longer than, almost 40 minutes long. When I went back to look at the first 15 files, as I left the car and walked around, as soon as I got up to the path and I could see the sign that gives you information about, camping and how long you can do that in that area, all of a sudden it slowed down. It went into like slow-mo. Now, there's no, on this handle I've got on the gimbal, there's no way for me other than to just stop and start recording. I can't change modes. So it's not like I can turn this into slow-mo recording. It didn't do that. But every one of these files did that. Well, then it took some time, and I wanted to look deeper. I wanted to find out, well, is this some anomaly that just happened on every one? And when I get 6 seconds into it, it starts to do this. There was no pattern to any of it. There were different lengths of time as I was starting the next recording when the delay before it would go into what I thought was slow-mo would happen. And I would look at this for days before I was confident enough to share it with somebody. And so Dave, of course, was the first one I shared it with. And Dave recognized what it was right away. That was time dilation. And yes, he went on to tell me that when other beings are observing us, that they'll put us in those situations so that they can observe us in a more controlled environment. My point is, I was able to record that. That's how this end video ended up being an hour and 58 minutes. And it would take Dave to watch it all the way through and find out at the end, he found some beings that he had screenshotted and circled so that I would see what was there. There was nothing but benevolent energy that was there the entire time. And that's what I've been used to. But the fact that we've been able to record these things and document them, I know that that's part of my purpose, is just to provide some real tangible proof of the things that we've been talking about. These strange anomalies that even those of us that have been through it have trouble explaining to somebody. But here, when you get to see these things, you know, you be the judge and you help us understand what it is that we're seeing. That's, well, I don't even know where to go with that. I'm still a little puzzled as to, you know, what that is, but the fact that we've recorded it and captured it once, it wasn't that I hadn't been around extraordinary images before. I've certainly had images taken around me with light beings in the photos and, you know, craft that's been in the photos. And I'm talking about surface level things, not things up in the sky. There was a purpose for all that. What it is, I'm not quite sure yet, but I don't think we're at the end of where we're going to be able to record these and then be able to share them with others. The collective isn't ready to comprehend those types of things, you know, at face value just yet. I just see us building a library of these this kind of information, and getting input. And it's always good in my mind when someone else helps kind of explain the phenomenon, because I had no experience with that before. It was going to take somebody else with a different perspective and some other experience that I had not had yet to explain that phenomenon, not just for me, but for those that are going to view this in the future. So here's the first one, and it was in video format. Like I said, I've seen some pictures that have been captured with unusual phenomenon that had been done around me, but this is the first time it had been in video format. So I'm going to give somebody else a chance to contribute while I gather myself and still figure out what the hell all that was. Nobody? Somebody?
I just want to say I sent you some of the pictures from my trip to Mount Shasta where I was in Fairy Falls and I was at the Gateway Peace Garden, and the geometric shapes that we had talked about, I didn't see them when I was there. But when I looked back at the pictures, and I was in awe by the shapes and the colors and the orbs, and they weren't just the circular orbs, they were, you know, true shapes. You said one of them was a sprite in the Gateway Garden, and it was just, it's shocking whenever I go back to those pictures. It takes me aback because we were there and the energy, of course, was amazing, but those geometric shapes in the pictures were just, like you said, I don't know how to explain it. I know what you're saying when you're like, it's there and it's in picture form and it's nothing I did. It was just like showed up in the pictures afterwards.
I think we're given that information, and when we don't have any experience with it, especially extraordinary experience and phenomenon like that, we take pictures of it and we captured it, and that was intentional by, you know, whatever put that in our field in the first place. This is meant for you. You're supposed to understand it, but you don't understand right away. almost across the board, when I have something new, extraordinary that's happened, it takes me at least 3 days to have a comprehension of what this is so that I can understand it for myself, and then the determination of whether you share this with anybody else. Well, that it either leads it there or, you keep it to yourself. We're not done with extraordinary experiences. Far from it. We're just kind of crossing over into the next realm and coming back to report these things because we're here to help others understand it. When these things began to happen, I was compelled to share everything with others. I thought that what was happening with me, and I still believe this, wasn't meant for just me. It's meant for everybody. I'm a human being like everybody else. And so if I can have these experiences, there's nothing in my mind that tells me that somebody else can't with the same, or with the proper vibration. I know that that's the barometer that determines what we get to experience and what we don't. So low vibes, that's what we experience. All this stuff around us right now. But when we're open to things beyond that, wow, there's still, it's hard for me to understand from this perspective what that means. And I'm always curious, like when Katarina showed up today, and I always ask, tell me what your experience has been like. How long has this happened? So for people that have been aware of the gifts that they've had, the connections they've had from when they were young, that wasn't my experience. So you've had a while to adjust to this. And I don't even know that you can call that an adjustment, because that's just kind of who you were all along. And over time, you understand what to do with it. So go ahead, Katarina.
But I had a different experience because I had a time when I was cut off. That was my probation period, and it was quite a shock. Because for me, it was like a breathing. Since I was skipped, basically being in touch with the ether, as you call it, or basically with the divine realms, or how you want to call it, it depends. But the ether, I would say, is the best to describe it, but everything connects us. When the time came and it was closed for me for some time, it was for me a huge shock to understand how other people feels. Just imagine that you are normally every day in a connection, in a flow, and you are basically doing it absolutely intuitively. And one day you wake up and there is nothing. There is really, really such deep quietness that you never experienced, and you feel lost and you are afraid, and then the process starts. So for me, it was like merging somewhere really unknown, and it was really scary on the beginning. So I understand that people outside, they are going from basically the void, from the unknown into the knowing, and for them it's quite scary. Open to something what there is not tangible, what is not visible. Yeah, and for me, it was learning how to work in this different way, and now it's basically reconnecting everything all together. So it's making more understanding, more compassion, more everything. And I had a beautiful experience thanks to Michaela, because she is absolutely amazing person, and because she was on Mount Shasta with you. I saw some pictures, and she saw me one special picture, basically with the portal. And it was so deep for me. Basically, I almost lost my consciousness. I was really in different place. Till I was in the room, I was in different place. And I basically could telepathically see what is inside in some level, and I could see them, and I could receive some messages. And when I was looking on the picture, there was also the plastic. There was also the picture of the guardian of the gate, and it was amazing for me just to see him. I could tell that a lot of people didn't see him, but I could see him, and it was an amazing experience for me once again. So I quite understand that people, if they are not quite ready, for them it can be shock. And it's amazing that you as a person are here to bring it in tangible way for people who are ready. And it will be going slowly in the process. Slowly, well, that's a relative point. Everything is going quicker and quicker, to be honest. However, I can understand both sides. Yeah, when you are getting there and when you are reconnecting again to that. And it can be both sides, quite interesting and intense, but beautiful. So yeah. And it needs time. So even the understanding the things that are happening needs some time, but not time like when it will be happening through the mind, but time to just releasing into the process. And that's it.
It was so beautiful. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you want
Yes,
to tell us
sometimes-
some more about what happened in Scotland while you were there? Because I'm curious to hear what happened.
Oh wow, what happened in Scotland? Michaela, what happened in Scotland?
Yes, there were so many things.
Wow.
We were
Yeah.
visiting some very powerful places, and it was also again the confirmation that sometimes it is good to go to places physically.
Yeah.
You know, because then it can work on many levels. It is much more physical. It goes much deeper into matter when you really get into the place and connect on all levels. So we were so blessed. We have 2 weeks rented car, so we were totally free. We could explore whatever we wanted. We visited many powerful places, megalithic sites, stone circles, or just places that we were drawn to, because at one point we'd separated. Katarina went to Orkney Islands to the north, and I went Bible, and I went on the other area that called to me, and on the map there was nothing. There was just vast plains, but it was the exact place that I was meant to go. So yeah, we can talk about various experiences, but I know I'm not sure what would be the most useful. But I can say that since I returned from Shasta, from meeting with you all, and from the most transformative experience that happened at the portal, I started to work with sound, and it really gives another dimension to the work. So yeah, when I first heard Yedya Maya speaking the light language, I was very surprised and amazed, and I didn't couldn't imagine that I would do it one day too, but it's here.
Oh, and you are amazing.
Even though it's different, because I communicate more with the earthly realms, with the natural elemental realms. Yeah, and we work very nicely with Katarina together, because she's connected to the higher angelic realms, and I go deep to the earth with a deeper voice, with other kind of sound. And when we are connected together, very beautiful portal creates, and the energy can be transmitted from very high to the deepest. So I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for these cooperations and friendships that are so matching and blessed.
It was really wow. I cannot say just one thing what was amazing, because the whole trip, it's like a package. It's like a jigsaw, basically. You need all the pieces together. Yeah, you need all the pieces together to make the picture, and the picture will be seen in maybe some time, because I still feel how the energy are settling down, and slowly in their own pace it is showing me what needs to be done, what needs to be ended, how the basically my own being is restoring and, let's say, entering another plane. That is the easiest way to say it. As I said, before that, I could feel like my life was many pathways that were leading into one point. And from this point, it was just falling everything what is not needed off. And there's starting to be the truth, basically, the inner truth. And I just can feel that it's most important thing to follow in your own pace and be true what you feel inside and basically work with that. So everybody has their own unique way why they are here in this tribe as well, because it's really important. And they have their own specification why they came. That's why they are right hands of the thought, because they need them here on the earth, on the time. And because now we are talking about the time and how everything is changing, and we are retuning to the original, let's say, time or the flow, we will be experiencing more and more these interesting facts. And for people, it will be like, something really strange, like, para things. But for a lot of people who know who they are, it will be like just going home and basically getting closer to yourself and to the source and to the other realms, because you will be understanding that there is basically nothing to be separate. It was just the energetic level, and it's basically us, then the energy field, the consciousness getting all together on different levels. So yeah.
Yes, I love how you named it before we go to the journey, that things were kind of fragmented. Our focus was on different things, but now it came all together, even though things that seemed to be not possible to connect are connected, because it is the original wholeness of each one of us, you know? We connect things that are very diverse. But they still match. They are still perfect together.
True. True.
And then with the time, you know, I don't know if I should go too much into that, but you know, the linear time, it is connected to the system. So when there are some disruptions in linear time, it might be stressful for those who are connected to the system. Yeah, but I think it's gonna be occurring more and more.
It will be, and yeah. But in some point, it's really good, because people can be more curious, and when it's going more and more, then the people can be a little bit calmer. In some point, depends. Yeah.
Well, I am grateful, and I love to hear experiencers. Christine was one of the latest ones who showed up, because it's one thing to be inspired and sit at home in our offices and document the things that we're experiencing. It's an entirely different thing to get out in the world and find these things for yourself, and then come back to report on those things. It's not going to resonate with everybody, but it's going to resonate with a few, and you were meant to help trigger those people into their own levels of curiosity, to understand or to have a remembering of the things that we knew before. I see it happening at an accelerated rate, and more people like Katarina showed up today to share her experiences. At the same time, I still understand that there's a lot of people that just don't get it. So part of me, like I said before, when I first started out, I thought this was meant for everybody to know. And in my little responsible Capricorn mind, I was trying to figure out the best way to communicate that for everybody else. It took me a few years to understand that not everybody is ready for this. And now, even more in the last few weeks, I'm just content to sit back and observe for a while. Clearly, there's so much chaos going on that people are too distracted by other things. With some exceptions, there are people that just wake up when they wake up. But as for the collective, they're not where we are yet. I hold out hope for them, and I send them, the proper energy to get there, but that's not my call to make. And if I want people to respect my sovereignty, I need to respect theirs too. And at the same time, when I realize that they have a unique gift, which every human being does, everybody has something that's special to just them. It's what you do and no one else does. When we finally embrace that and look at the tribe as this collection of all these unique people with these gifts, watch what the tribe can do when all of these people get together, because you're part of the puzzle answers the solution for me and Michaela and Christine and Irene and Paula and Dave and everybody else. When you watch how all of this comes together and the fabric that creates, wow, that's a whole different perspective we have. And when we get to see it from this community's perspective on, attachments and connections to higher perspectives, we can see where it's going. We can let that, and I tend to try not to let it frustrate me that others aren't getting there that quickly, even though it's been put out there for them to get. It's not for me to say that you're never going to get it. I don't know anything about their journey. I don't know anything about their soul contracts, and I don't know what lessons they signed up for. All I do know is that when this is all over, that the collective always benefits from your Akashic records and the things that you've observed. Sooner or later, we all benefit from that. So if I'm really wise, all I get to do is send you love and light and, send you on your way and allow you to make them, they're not mistakes, to learn the lessons that you came here to learn. This planet's experiment was about learning duality. We are sparks of source that came to help it understand more about itself. And when we do that, because this is a planet of duality, we're going to learn the good things and we're going to learn the bad things. And that's how we get contrast and understand in this three-dimensional density. Here is what the planet is like under these conditions. Now, that's just a fundamental understanding we're getting of our current situation. We wish we could accelerate everybody's awareness and just openness to an idea that what we're talking about is where we're all going. And I can't, push a button and make that happen faster for everybody else. I wanted to say I wish I could, but there are reasons why people are learning the lessons that they're learning. And again, it's not up to me to get in the way of that. Somehow I believe that when I do that, there's a chance that when I insert myself into their business, that I just created a karmic cord that wasn't necessary. They didn't invite my opinion, but I gave it to them anyway. Now I have another piece of karma that needs to be resolved. And in order for us to ascend, our karma has to be balanced. That's part of this objective. So I'm trying mindfully not to add to the karmic cords I need to dissolve or cut, or however you want to see that. But all those things need to be settled before I get to see the next thing. And that's not always that simple in our little human, carbon bodies and what we've been conditioned with. So I relish when the tribe gets together and we have these conversations, and it's just a wonderful weekly reminder that there are other people that are of the same mindset, and they just help kind of ground me when sometimes it just seems like we're in flux. So who else has an observation?
Yeah, it's been really a miracle. I'm always saying a show, this conversation, because literally every single word, every single feeling is exactly so resonating with everything I'm experiencing lately and even today and up until a second before this conversation started, like literally everything, every single thing you are all sharing. So that's already really profound and feeling very grateful we all show up, including myself. Like even like I don't know what to say. I like there's still the part of me is like, why am I even here? But just show up, and it's not just show up like randomly, but I just feel within me. It's not even about me. It's about moving creation forward, I guess. What else are we here for? So if I wouldn't show up, I feel my life, this part of my life would not be uh, um, utilized or so. I would not be plugged in to the real life that's going on. So and this is where maybe I can start maybe with a couple of the first questions or kind of like the first things that were thrown about time and space and gravity and like the time of Chronos and what was it, Chiron or I'm sorry.
Kairos.
Kairos. Yeah, I'm sorry because I'm not really familiar with it, but I resonate with it. So for me, it's like, and maybe I don't even know about the emerald tablets, but I'm kind of like feeling it out. And to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just throw in what I feel all about it. It's really about for creation to be here on a planet, you need certain rules or certain laws to experience reality on a planet. And I feel it's kind of like the chronos. There needs to be a chronological something to be able to experience time, space, reality on a planet. And I feel with the kairos, it's more the rhythms of your spirit incarnating. And that's where it gets really interesting, where we are here to move creation forward, to evolve it, to not be stagnant. So we have influences from the sun and other star systems, or wherever we come from, or whatever being you work with. And so this is where we are here to evolve. And I feel we're kind of going from this incubation period or like this whatever on hold, whatever you want to call it. On one level, it's like that to that we're kind of becoming ready to be plugged into the bigger thing, but it's also responsibility. So if you're moving from, let's say, one bandwidth of reality to the next, and it's going too quickly, you really will feel lost or going down. As a spirit, you are aware, and as a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, now my parents need to take care of me. That's not a good idea, actually. That doesn't feel too good. And with all the stuff that's going on around that, with self-blame and all the whatever, the whole shebang, what's going on here, it's pretty crazy. So so that's one thing we're here to slowly but surely adjust to, and everybody has their own rate, because there's this kairos time that will, your spirit will make sure you wake up. If you need to wake up, it's not gonna let the earth it's not gonna let you do something. Really, there is literally like your bigger part of you is your parent. It's not gonna let you just drown in the ocean, just like, see, this is what happens when you're just not listening. No, and it's really like, really you get like in danger, like your divine timing is off. It will really warn you up to the point where you maybe really do get an accident or almost drown, or or anyway, I'm not, or maybe even do get a mistake of, or even really really sadly, maybe like what's happening kind of now, like kids started to commit suicide. And even that is kind of like allowed because you have free will, but you will still feel, you will after that happening immediately, you will get behold, like you're not going to disappear in hell forever. I mean, that's not really what life is all about. So, but that's again a process of reintegrating back into wherever it's best for you to learn your lessons. But once you're done learning your lessons, it's time to lift up. And I feel this is where this gravity comes in, where I had literal experiences, uh, kind of chronological in a way, about like my first experience of kind of anti-gravity, or where gravity was lifted, when I had like a very deep like Reiki session. And I had this amazing energy come through, and I even know there's more to it. But when I left that place, and I had a big backpack because I was camping out, and I was lifting my backpack, and I had more stuff in it because I got books about the Pleiades, which actually led me to Mount Shasta. That's kind of funny. But it had the book in it, kind of really funny. Now I realized. So I put my backpack on, and I thought it was. I knew it was extremely heavy, but I lifted it up and was like, oops, I almost threw it on the other side because it was very light. So if I would put it on the scale, which is dense, right? It's man-made, dense, it would have still showed it was really heavy. But for me, it was really light. So what happened here? So there is a relationship with consciousness and gravity. It must be a relationship with it. It's the same when you're in love, you're walking on clouds, right? You feel high. You have a high vibration. So there's not really, we know that already. We're not incorporating it consciously. And I think that's where we're heading to, that it becomes really fun and not far-fetched. It's not too far-fetched. It should be very normal, and that's what I love. I want it to be really normal. It's scientific, yes, but then let's make it. I wanted to make it normal. I wanted to make it, of course, like a child knows this, you know. So anyway, and then another thing about time, and I'm sure you all have experienced that too. That times, I think after one of our conversations, maybe one of the first conversations, also again about Mount Shasta, and so there must be areas on the planet which hold that vibration already. And so one of these days after our conversation, maybe it was the next day, I was walking to town, and I know I can walk fast, but there's kind of a limit to how fast I can walk to town. Let's say it was like 28 minutes. Well, the next day after our conversation, it was in 13 minutes. It's impossible, but it happened. So, and I was really happy. It's like, no, it's not only happening in these specific places. We're bringing it here.
Yeah.
But it's also not only me. It also has to do with a certain alignment, because it's really difficult to hold your energy in a dense situation. And I feel this is what's starting to happen, this fluctuating of the earth is ready, we're anchoring what we're here to anchor, whether we are aware of it or not. And so this earth is starting to be lit up, whether you're aware of it or not. Then it becomes like a dance. When you're aware of it, you start to feel it. Like these last days, I feel like, oh my gosh, I feel this pristine crystalline energy coming over, like these moments, like, oh my gosh, I don't need to travel anywhere, it's already here. This feels so good, you know, because traveling is kind of not always so very fun, going through the whatever to be somewhere. So and then sometimes it's closing, but it's the same in Mount Shasta. I've been there a couple of times, and some moments it's like, I don't think I really want to be here. It feels so dark, you know. There's like, this is not the place to be right now, and it's okay, you know. It's in the ocean as well. Sometimes you love to swim in the oceans, but there's days you see there's these beautiful palm beaches and like pristine. There can be the nastiest storms as well. So it's good to know that we're still on this planet. But guess what? When you're in your connection and your true self, you're kind of outside of time space, and there's this forever amazing energy where it's forever, always amazing. It's kind of like when you really go deep in the water, then you don't feel the storm. It's really pristine. And I think this is really important to when you keep on holding that, because our connection is really important, and to kind of like bypass time space or to transcend it. Because I feel, let's say, if you want to visit a certain place, you can do it with your mind. It's kind of like remote viewing, right? So you can do that, but it's only with your mind. It's not with your body. It's not with your spirit necessarily. I mean, it's more mind, your mind, but you cannot influence. You can remote view a place, certain space, or you can also a certain space in a certain time, but you can just look at it like a picture almost, or a moving thing. But there's something when you have your spirit involved, you can kind of merge, and then you can have an influence on it. But you have to be completely aligned with your centers need to be really aligned. And then the last part is kind of like when you can really transcend, kind of like teleport or whatever. But that's kind of it's not like, oh, I wish I can do that maybe tomorrow. The earth is still, there's places, I guess, where it's possible. I had an experience myself where it's possible. It's not everywhere because it's kind of jungle out there. You need to really, but it's great that it's in the future, and we kind of like start to, when you feel drawn to start to practice that muscle, and don't be afraid like, oh, I should be doing all of this right now. No. There's people with certain skills, and once you get it, you can just, you just do it like that, and you bring the whole information, and it just like in in 2 minutes, So I think so I feel so grateful that, and it's just such a magical place for us to be in, because we come from such different angles, such different backgrounds, but we resonate somewhere where we promise to meet and bring like a whale pod coming together, like, and can kind of collaborating. I mean, that's very fresh and very new for us humans to do that without having in our space now. There's no war going on, or in our I mean, yes and no, but I mean, it's just amazing that we can do that from our desire, our inner desire, and from a moment that we desire to thrive, where we want to live in this beautiful way that we always know, and we start to feel safe with one another. And I feel that that's very new, and it's just magical, and it's just kind of continue unfolding. So anyway, I must have left out something, but I feel it's kind of a
Well,
Anyway.
I want to, there's an observation I want to make on the things that you were talking about, because over the last week, for whatever reason, my attention had been drawn to what our government has been doing like since the 40s, and where there were programs for remote viewing, like you were talking about, that the military certainly had interest in figuring out how to take advantage of that ability. But you did a really good job opening up the door for me to explain what at least my comprehension of the differences between remote viewing and bilocation was. Where remote viewing is, yes, I can go there and I can observe, but I can't influence it. As opposed to bilocation, when you're actually going there and you do experience what's happening there, not just observe it, you experience it. Now, to what degree we get to influence it, that I really can't speak intelligently to yet, but I suspect that we can have influence over that. I'm really, really, really looking forward to when Dave puts a little finer point to time like gravity and sound, and how we get to understand the consciousness between all of it that binds it so that we can influence it. I suspect we're going to be talking more and more about what consciousness is. We've certainly read about it. It resonates with me. I understand what it means. I just kind of put a lid on it because outside of the tribe, it's not a topic that people would resonate with, so you just leave it alone. But that doesn't really allow me to explore it any further with like-minded individuals when I have to be quiet about it. And so, again, I'm grateful when we have these little powwows together and the rest of the team kind of brings their piece of the puzzle together. And, you know, we're aligning more with consciousness as we go along. When Katarina mentioned her connections to Toth, there was something this past week that he reminded me of, and that we're not light workers anymore. We're light bearers. And that light that's coming in our direction, that actual physical enhanced photon energy that's coming from our central sun, and that's affecting the sentient life in our entire solar system and us little, you know, critters on the planet. We anchor our light here to assist in that effort. We bear the light. We don't go to Shasta seeking it. We know that that's our job. And when I look around at the people that are here to do that, it's a small, finite group of people that realize that they have that ability and they're actually willing to do that. All the more reason I'm grateful when people get out from this side of their Zoom screens and go out there in a field and find those truths for themselves. Those are the people that I resonate with the most, as opposed to people that, and I'm not taking anything away from channelers, but I've been in this community long enough to realize the differences between true people that are channeling. And when you hear Yegyamaya, I had to hear her a few times before I understood what she was communicating. And that when she was communicating these higher aspects, they weren't all the same. When you begin to understand patterns and different, you know, frequencies, you can begin to discern between the two. And I was sharing this with Dave yesterday because one of the things I posted on YouTube was when the day back, was it last September? No, it was September before that. It really doesn't matter. She was channeling information for me. Now, I put that up there, and what you didn't see was the last half of that session, because the last half was her. And she asked me not to produce that for anybody else because it was real personal for her. But at the beginning of it, you could see that she was channeling information for her. And so it was really interesting to see this being having these conversations between her and her higher aspect at the same time. So when you see this phenomenon going on, you know that, wait a minute, when she's speaking these things, that's not her. You get to recognize that this wisdom that's coming from somewhere was meant for her too. And so in the exchange at the beginning of this, that's when I finally got it, that this girl has a gift. And although I thought I recognized it, when you see her receiving these messages in these things, that you know that this is coming from somewhere else. And in my case, there were a lot of things that led up to whatever this relationship I was going to have with Toe. And it came out of nowhere. I had a hunger to learn more about the Emerald Tablets a few months before this actually played itself out. And Toth kept popping into my head for reasons that I didn't understand. I had to read through the Emerald Tablets 5 times before I actually could comprehend it and understand what it was. And in my mind, I'd been led to believe well, one certainty that Toth was going to return at some point. The Emerald Tablets told us that he was. He's just been, waiting in the 8th dimension for the time when it was necessary for him to come back. Well, that clearly it's now, and his influence. Part of me said that, this preparation was finding a pure enough vessel to hold his consciousness to return, because he's taken human form at least 3 times before. And I wondered, well, you mean me? I understand after that session with Yedumaya that I wasn't going to hold his consciousness. So Toth and I have had a relationship throughout our incarnations. And there was a time when we were both, studying to be, Melchizedek priests. And, I was part of that. So when I connect with him, it's when his higher aspect comes in to give wisdom and share that. But I was reminded that he's not the only one that comes through. I never thought that I was going to communicate with higher aspects the way that she does, but I do. And I recognize that wisdom is different. So it's not always going to be Toth. I was suggesting, just be open to other things, because you'll have other information that's coming through. Just be open to it and, take it for what it's worth. We'll see where it all leads, but I'm not finished with that whatsoever. There's just greater clarity that comes to me now. And I just love to hear when others have it. Part of the community I was in, when the word kind of leaked out that this connection between me and Toth was imminent, all of a sudden, there were portions of that community that I don't want to say I was ostracized from, but you can tell that there's some separation that's been put up. And I couldn't understand it. The same way that when I went to Shasta and the word got out, and I heard, these people that have been in that community, in that area for a while, that you would think, at least in my case, if there was somebody that had some new experience with Lemurians, or had visited another inner earth platform, that I am interested in hearing about it. It didn't seem like that was uniform. That, it was suggested that there are going to be people that are going to come along that are going to be envious and they're going to be jealous. And I couldn't understand that. Well, I did understand it like 2 years after I had presented at the first conference I'd ever spoke at. And shortly after that, there were people that had been in this community for a while that were pissed because they couldn't understand why it was me that was chosen to have these experiences and not them. So I thought, well, if this is the community, I understand, why they're going to be stuck where they are, because if that's their mindset, if they don't see that they're connected to everybody else and that we all benefit from the information when we do that, then, man, those people are not who they say they are. You can't talk about love and light and call people names along the way. That doesn't really display love and light thing. So I'll leave that there. One day, all that's going to come out, but it's not necessary for me to point fingers at others. They're all going through their own things, and they're all humans trying to figure it out. When I have trouble is when, you posture yourself that you're connected to everybody else, and love and light is, your fundamental framework. Then when I hear you gossip and talk about others and in ways that you don't allow for them to be themselves, and you've got some opinion about what it should be, that's when you've just lost my interest. And it just showed me who the community was for itself. That's not to say that there aren't genuine people here that showed up, but I can tell you that the ones I've come across that have been in this for years, there are only a small fraction of those people that actually live their lives that way. And that any of those are the only ones that I'm interested in hearing more from. I sized the rest of you up And it's like you've already got limitations on what you think you're going to believe, and that you're not open to anything else. And that only your experiences are the ones that count. I don't have any time for that. Send you love and light and send you on your way. But I am not going to spend my attention trying to figure that out. Because in my mind, our attention is the most valuable commodity we have. It's not money, it's not time, it's where we put our attention. That is what determines what we get to experience next. And I'm very choosy about where my mindset goes, knowing that I'm a co-creator of my reality, and that the things that I think are what's are being brought into my awareness. And so I can't divert my path by thinking about, what somebody else thought, or that I need to stop and evaluate what they said and figure out how it affects me. No, I've seen enough of higher realms, and I see that perspective. So I seem to be more open than they are to experiences beyond their own. So I'll get off the soapbox right now and see if anybody else has, wow, it's almost an hour and a half. Anyone else has any observations before we finish today?
I just wanted to say that when I listen to all of you, doesn't matter who's on here, I feel it energetically. Like it's a feeling of understand, even if it's something that I don't mentally comprehend, I can feel the truth in what you all say. And it's a really neat community that is created here, where we're bringing in all of this information and truth that I just feel like I'm in a meditative state the entire time I'm here. And when I went to Mount Shasta, Jess and I both, we went in saying, we just want the experience to happen for what it needs to happen, whether we're transported into Telos or not, or like we didn't go there with that expectation. We went open to see what we were going to see and what we should be shown at that time. And it's just, it's a great little community you've created here. I really appreciate it.
Well, I don't know that I created, but I'm glad that you said that. We talk about feelings here, and that's what resonates with me most. There's something authentic about the people that I let into my circle, and those are the ones I want to hear from. They, as a habit, I'm always more interested in hearing from somebody else first rather than me spewing these things. That's why this has never become a show and I was never the host. This was always supposed to be an exchange for people that have perspectives to offer the rest of the tribe. And undoubtedly, every time we do this, there was something in it that I was supposed to get out of it. And I couldn't be more grateful. But I couldn't do that if I came into this with a mindset that, what anybody else thinks really doesn't resonate with me. We need to remain open to the things that we don't understand, because if you want to experience miracles, don't say that that can't be true when they finally show up, because then you just cut yourself off from source and the ability for the rest of the tribe members maybe to add one more piece to the puzzle of things that you need to understand. I want to hear others' tales first so I can see how mine aligns with theirs. Oftentimes it does. We weren't here by coincidence. The 5 of us aren't here today by accident. And there was something we were all meant to get out of it, and just lift something up or carry away something that I got clarity on while I was here. That's why the tribe shows up. Yes, we're all on our own individual journeys. And yes, we should allow others to do that. But the community helps shape that. That's why I'm grateful when you all show up, because I don't really feel like I'm alone in it anymore. And that was the hardest part. When you start having these extraordinary experiences, you want to find some kind of touchstone that can help you understand what it is. I hear from a lot of people that you just assume that my journey has really matured and that I'm so far ahead of everybody else. Let me tell you, I don't feel like that at all. I'm still like at the doorstep, just exploring, new places I've been. And yes, I can feel them and I can articulate about them, but I'm nowhere near the end. And the next tribe member always shows up with the next piece of the puzzle to help me on my journey. And I couldn't do that if I was closed-minded to things that I didn't understand before. Here is where humanity, there's the roadblock, is to eliminate the things that you already would shut down and say can't be possible. You've just cut yourself off from extraordinary things that something higher than yourself is trying to show you, and you stop the process. So I see why you're stuck there. And again, I send you love and light, but I can't, not my job to get you out of the rut that you're in. Well, any closing thoughts from the rest of you?
Yeah, if I can just share. Well, to start, I would say it's all beautifully connected. Similar experience I had with a group of people led by channelers. In the end, when basically I started really acknowledge my abilities, and I started to be really happy about them. The last message from Toll was with them, and it was basically vision. It was like kind of prophecy, and they were scared. And then basically everything went into the bad road. But for me, it was in the end blessing after when I shake it everything down. It was blessing for releasing myself from these illusions. And then come this probation period when I was touching more about my true feelings, my setups, my everything. So I was basically getting in touch. And I was in that time also alone. And when the end is coming of this period, for me, it was such a blessing when I could connect with Michaela. And we were again in touch. And for me, it was like, oh my God, finally somebody sees me how I am. And a lot of relationships just fell down. And there was quiet, there was almost nobody, just a few people. But today I feel really blessed because I can be here. And it's like being with the family. So it's absolutely amazing. And yes, it is really important, even when the people are channeling, do not forgetting that basically they are also human beings and still having the emotions, still don't disconnecting themselves from the human realm, from the humanity, from the feelings, from the emotions, from everything. Just learning how to put everything together and make everything real. So basically the message is from the higher realms, from the higher self, understanding that it's not just for somebody, it's also for yourself. Even I know that when I'm working with the clients and something is coming, that always they're telling me, listen for yourself as well. That's why I have to record it, because usually I don't remember nothing. So that's why I have to record it. But regarding the light bearers, that was really beautiful because it's triggered one memory from last year when I had a beautiful vision about Earth, about ascending Earth, how she's basically getting up, and how the diamond grid was changing, relocating, activating different points on Earth. And I then saw the beautiful connection between Earth, the inner Earth, the Earth as we know it on the surface, and the higher realms, and how the people who are awake, and maybe it's not a lot of them, but still it's quite enough, they're starting to be like a channels, like a proper keyhole that through which the divine codes, the divine energy is going through them and going to the Earth. And maybe you saw it, but in these past years, 2 years, 3 years, and it will be continuing probably another sometime, a lot of people were relocated to different places, to different countries. Even we returned after several years back to the Czech Republic. And it is because we're supposed to be on the right place in the right time, where everything can click and just push us to another way. Not only us as a human beings, but also like Light Bear and the earth as a whole. Yeah, so that, yeah, thank you for that, because it triggered again this memory, and it was beautiful feeling, just a feeling like a huge tribe. Beautiful, beautiful tribe.
Thanks for showing up today.
Thank you for having me.
Michaela?
Yes, I just want to say that I also feel how important this support is of the tribe, you know,
Yeah.
and how much it means to me, that place that you created, Laurel. I really grew up so much in this space that you hold. I'm here for, I don't know for how long, the linear time, doesn't matter. But this is what we are meant to do, you know, sharing with these higher things in high vibration. And maybe it is because I'm blessed that I quit my work and I had time really to tend my own flame, as you say, that I really stopped caring about opinions of others. At first, when I was on my path, I was selecting it, as you say, choosing where to put our attention. But then after some shifts, I cannot do that anymore. I cannot even force myself into caring, you know? Like in my country, there were elections, big elections. A couple of days ago, people were very passionate about it. It was totally in some different realm. I was not connected to it anyhow, you know. But still, there is a way to connect with people on the level of love, on the level of some common ground. But that's a question, you know, how much we should accommodate our messages and our talks to the people that are absolutely in different reality, if you know what I mean.
Sometimes it's
We
really
get to
hard, I
plant
would say so.
seeds is how I understand it now. So when we do drop the occasional suggestion to crowds that this might be foreign information to, those are seeds that we planted. Whether they blossom in the time that we'll know those people, that's not really for us to say. But again, none of that is coincidental. That maybe you were one of those triggers that they placed in their path to remind them of something along the way. So when I get to this place, you agreed to say this word so that something would trigger in me again and my awareness would be restored. And here we go again. Because as we know, when we come into these incarnations, at least in my generation, because I recognize that the generations behind me were not as handcuffed as I was when I came into this one, that there are gifts that your generation brought in, your ability to see things beyond me, and then, never mind the differences between what I think, feminine divine provides as opposed to feminine, masculine provides. That's a whole nother conversation to have. There's there's a unity that's trying to come back and assemble itself with people that are all showing up just like this. So we'll just do what work we're supposed to do. And again, I look forward to these Saturday sessions because people come here and share authentically. And Katarina mentioned something about recording these things. I've learned to record them because after the first few I did and I didn't record them, I realized that there were messages in there even that I say I used to be blown away by the profound things I would hear myself say, and I didn't know where they came from. And I was missing out on those. Because when you're channeling that stuff, and I never really considered myself a channel until, somebody said, well, yeah, you're channeling that stuff. Listen to yourself. That was meant for me too. And so you're not listening to yourself while it's coming out. You really need an opportunity to go back and listen to it later. And that's why we archive these things for us today. But I know that there are times, and I've certainly heard from people, that makes me feel, good on one point, and the rest of you should all participate in this, that when somebody finally finds this channel, they go through all of these. And they're at least an hour long, aren't they, gang? So when they start to listen to all of these and start to trigger, now I know that we're serving a purpose we were supposed to serve. And we didn't do that, to serve our egos. None of this was to make us famous or, wealthy. Those things come as a result. They're byproducts. They definitely will be. But we have no idea who we're going to trigger next. Our job is to just, shine your light, let it happen, and then see where the chips fall. So I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you for showing up today. And I think we'll call it a day, and I'll see you all here hopefully next Saturday. Yes?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.